literally 8 minutes ago, just found out that Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down from Lucasfilm this year. You don't want to hate or dislike someone, but I mean, she is respectfully, she's the brand royally.
Kathleen Kennedy is gone, and the collective Star Wars internet has lost its mind. I get it, it's the end of a rather obnoxious era of Star Wars. 13 years of preachy, mostly substanceless content masquerading as our favorite franchise. But the most interesting part of this is not what it means for the future of Star Wars, but what it means for the industry, and what it says about what we, the audience, truly want. As a Star Wars fan, the last few years have been a disappointment. And while I've become somewhat apathetic about the franchise, when I make videos and look back at old trailers and old scenes, I have to admit it makes me sad. I love Star Wars. I mean, it's awesome. For the last few generations, it has stood as a symbol of creativity, imagination, and heroism. It's such a massive world with so many stories to tell. But instead, for the last 13 years, Disney has focused on preaching, or doubling and tripling down on what seems to sell the most off the shelves, completely failing to tell a good story in the process. I mean, even Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, admitted that.
Increased our output tremendously to feed the streaming platforms. Too much, by the way.
Mistake.
Definite mistake.
So when it was announced that Kathleen Kennedy, the current head of Lucasfilm, the person to whom George Lucas entrusted his two great franchises, his whole company, was stepping down, I mean, the internet rejoiced. Most of it. Anyway, like any issue anymore, there are two separate camps. You know, some people raging, most people rejoicing. And to be honest, I fall somewhere in the middle. I get it. Fans finally have hope, and Kathleen Kennedy seems to stand for everything they have come to despise about Disney Star Wars. She managed to do something that most executives could not, to take one of the most popular intellectual properties of all time and essentially ruin it. See, with her gone, the sky's the limit. Kind of? While I'm confident that Kennedy played a role in the ups and downs, mostly downs, of the last 13 years of Disney Star Wars, I'm not really sure that her leaving will fix anything. The damage has been done, and, you know, of course there's always hope, but it would require a masterful takeover to restore faith in the brand and bring the fans back. Additionally, it's a massive company. And while Kathleen Kennedy was likely largely to blame, it's impossible to know who was responsible for what, or who will inevitably replace her. Which is why I think there's a more important takeaway from this resignation. Regardless of what this news might mean for Star Wars, it's a victory that reveals a lot about the current Hollywood industry and the future ahead of us. See, Kathleen Kennedy stands for more than just one company. She's part and parcel of an entire movement in Hollywood, one that has just received a serious blow. When she took over at Lucasfilm, a lot of things were happening, but I do remember distinctly this one phrase that she kept championing. The Force is female. It escalated a non-issue into a culture war, and it brought an entire franchise and fan base with it. As far as I can tell, The Force Awakens was really the start of the modern cultural conflict that we see today, and the first great model of a franchise being sacrificed at the altar of personal agenda. Rey was a weak character, a blatant Mary Sue, and a direct result of philosophies like the Force is female and the underlying lies which built them up. And yet, if anyone dared to point this out, to criticize her character or the movies she was in, well, they were just a sexist bigot. And as the franchise went on, instances like this continued to increase.
A number of women in executive positions and in all positions inside the company, and with the movies that we're making, and with the protagonists that we're putting in the stories. So
I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
I mean, because I feel like Star Wars is very, like, patriarchal, so it was kind of cool to have, like, this sort of woman-centered figure.
Look, there's a reason the South Park feature of Kathleen Kennedy went viral. People thought it was funny because there was an element of truth to it. So Kathleen Kennedy stepping down is more than just a sign of hope. It's the end of an era. Not for the companies, but for the fans. For us. It's a sad irony that a property like Star Wars would die this way. Lucas was an icon of the independent film space, and Star Wars itself a beacon of hope for creating something beyond the boundaries of the Hollywood system. And regardless of his mistakes, Lucas at his heart was an independent artist, just trying to use the business to tell more stories. And the same goes for the likes of Walt Disney. He was a visionary in artistic innovation and changed the culture forever. So what has been done to these brands? I mean, what's been done to literally their names is a travesty. If we really want to carry on such legacies as that of Star Wars, then let's do what these creators did. Strike out on our own. Create our own stories, our own worlds, our own companies. Whether corporate Hollywood really listens or not, let's use what they gave us. Community, a common enemy, a clear idea of what, messaging and ideology really leads to. I mean, to be honest, that's why I started up this new channel. To talk about good stories, to understand them, and to make a place where good stories can be told once more, untainted by pointless messaging and corporate greed. Something that just like Lucas, just like Disney, will never forget the people that made it possible. That's why Kathleen Kennedy stepping down really matters. Because it's an acceptance, an acknowledgement of the truth, that a property is nothing without its fans, and that without a studio that understands them, a studio that understands what made this thing work in the first place, no amount of nostalgia will ever be enough. But as always, these are just my thoughts and opinions on the matter. I mean, I would love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you are a fan of this content and you want to support me, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you like Star Wars, you want to see another video I did on Star Wars, click right here. And as always, keep reading, keep writing, and I will see you all in the next one.